And we're live. I still have to figure that out. How Breeze does the count.
I knew that was going to happen too. I honestly was just waiting on it.
So why didn't you say anything?
Because I wanted to see if it was actually going to happen.
Because you're a douche and a dick.
Yes, you know I like watching the train wreck.
Hey, it's nothing like a good train wreck. That makes for a good pod.
It's true.
And edibles.
Tons of them.
Welcome one, welcome all, welcome near, welcome far. Welcome to the world's greatest sports podcast.
Yeah.
Breeze ain't here. He normally says, the Somebody Said podcast, where we talk heavy college football this time of year. NFL is in full swing. Asha's typically has a gripe. She doesn't have a gripe this week. She's on mom duty tonight. I will toss it out there because she mentioned it to me. She was mentioning that she wanted to talk about Bronny. And why isn't he traveling with the team and doing what a normal G leaguer does? I don't know if you want to touch on that or keep it moving real quick.
Remember when Northwest got cast in line? It's the same text that I sent you and Breeze, man. Why are we talking about LeBron James Jr.? Yeah, why does it even matter? If he travels with the team, if he doesn't travel with the team, they get the same production out of him, which is nothing.
That's the same way I feel. I was in Barnes and Noble today, and he was on the cover of Men's Health.
Yeah, that's what I sent you guys.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, why is he on the cover?
He's Bronny James. He's accomplished so much in his illustrious career.
Listen, I understood the conversation about the whole nepotism thing and yada yada yada. Now it's a prominent black family doing it, which is fine. The only problem with that is most of the times when you get that nepotism, the kid sucks. He's either not qualified and he only got the job because, oh yeah, that's my daddy. Bronny is one of those kids. He wouldn't have been here.
And at what point do you wrap it up?
Man, they're about a year too late.
They dragging it out, but we don't. Yeah, and we're kind of dragging it out on the Bronny thing. But that was Asha's gripe. Shout out to Ash. She couldn't be here.
He's a bum.
I ain't gonna go that far, man. I ain't gonna kill the kid. Nah. He probably gets that every day from some guy in Idaho that has nothing else to do. So I'm not gonna bash the kid.
Well, he's getting it from me too. I got nothing to do in St. Pete because he's a bum.
All right. Well, this is the Somebody Said podcast where we talk Bronny James, we talk college football, NFL, hockey. We haven't touched on hockey at all yet this season. How's your Blackhawks doing?
They're being the Blackhawks. Surprisingly enough, they're actually competitive. They've been competitive in a lot of games, which is something that they weren't last year. It's not bad. I'm not gonna say they're not. I mean, they're not turning the corner. Probably still make the playoffs, but improvements.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who know me out there, I don't get into hockey until later in the season, so I have no hot takes, no takes for my Maple Leafs. Breeze, on the other hand, he's high on the Lightning this year. I wish he was here to touch on them right now, but I looked at his Instagram and he's having a steak dinner in
fancy
first class treatment. He's in the chef's kitchen watching his steak getting cooked.
Piggy's out.
Hey, that's wealth, man. I want to get there one day.
Got to be like Breeze when I grow up.
Yeah, man. But enough of the small talk, man. Let's jump right into it. First thing on the tab today is college football. The week that was, Prime keeps winning, man.
He does.
Prime just keeps winning with Colorado, and I think that a lot of people out there owe them an apology.
I am
Breeze, and Breeze included. He's kind of jumped on their bandwagon this year. He just finds a way to be in the right, but Breeze, you owe them an apology as well. They beat Utah 49-24. They're now 8-2 and in prime position to potentially make a playoff bid. Is this Colorado team for real?
Yeah, I mean, again, they walked into this season with two players on that team who had legitimate shots of potentially winning the Heisman. I thought Shedeur had a shot early. Again, he's one of those names in the early Heisman hype, and then you have honestly probably the best athlete in college football. Like
Probably ever, top 5 ever.
what he does on a daily basis, it's like, how does he not get tired? He's a robot, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's great. I got to eat some humble pie myself. I definitely took the under on Prime in Colorado for this year. So we like to do housekeeping. But yeah, I think Colorado is a contender to make the playoff. Absolutely. Now, when they get there, I think there's a lot of teams that are better than them.
Mhm.
But
And then me and you had a spirited conversation over the weekend about about this Colorado team under Dion versus
yeah,
Mike, and the fact that he's doing it so fast in year 2. You mentioned Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders, but outside of those two guys, you have to kind of give the rest of the team a little bit of credit, because early on in the season we were looking at this offensive line and thinking, uh, are we getting the same offensive line from last year where they couldn't block a thing? And they kind of shored that up to some degree, not kind of a full turnaround, but they've been blocking a little bit better. You got to give a shout out to Warren Sapp, who's a first year head coach on any level. And he's having that D line playing outside of their mind.
yeah,
So outside of the two main guys, the two stars, you got to give credit to this team as a whole. The LeJohntay Webster, the
Wester,
number
yeah.
10, Wester, these
Uh-huh.
speedy wide receivers on the outside are making plays. So, you got to shout out that team as a whole, and they could be a threat. They all they have left on the schedule is Kansas, who's been playing very underwhelming ball, although they beat BYU this past weekend. But they're still under 500, and they round out the season with Oklahoma State. So
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
potentially looking at 10-2.
yeah, I mean, and there's going to be some shake up in the CFP. I mean, I know we're about to get in that next. They have to hope for a lot to make the playoff, in my opinion. Now, I'll probably touch on that as we get into the CFP talk.
Okay. Um, so I know you didn't watch a bulk of the games, but you did kind of.
Yeah,
We're not gonna.
I was being Super Mario on Saturday.
Hey, somebody's got to do it, man. If not you, then who?
I'm not need to find him though.
Um, that Georgia Tennessee game, man. It was the big one over the weekend. Uh, I I never believed in Tennessee. I just never believed in Tennessee. I thought their offense would have played a little bit better this year under Nico, who was a highly 5-star recruit coming out of high school. One of the better arms in recent memory, and he hasn't hit his stride, so to speak, this season. And outside of him, there's no other players to look to on this Tennessee team that scares anybody. This team is just on occasions they're fun to watch, but
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe in Tennessee, and it's hard to not bank on Georgia being Georgia again eventually, with 2 more games to go. What did you take from seeing this game?
So this is the thing. I feel like we all at the beginning of this season either overestimated or underestimated a lot of people, right? Honestly, I think Breeze mentions all the time, but like the way that college football is changing, right? You really don't know what's going to go on from year to year, right? Forget week to week, year to year, you have no clue what's going to go on. So like I'm feeling like we're overvaluing the Georgia team just based off of what they did the last 2 years. They're
But isn't
still
that what
really good. They're
isn't
still
that what
really,
we've
really good.
that's what we've done with Bama on a year-to-year basis, but that was
I know,
based off of the
I know, but I
equity
don't
they
think that
built
we
up.
expected. But I don't think we expected it of Georgia. I think we expected Georgia to come back out and start dominating again, especially when we saw the first game of the season, the way they go down, and then all of a sudden, second half, they just go out there and like, oh snap, I forgot we're Georgia, and they kill Clemson, right?
Right.
So going back on this game, like I get it. Tennessee started off really, really good, dominating people, putting up 50, 60 points a game, but they were playing virtually nobody's except for North Carolina State. Nico's been so up and down since like the first 4 weeks of the season. I think he might still be hurt a little bit, but I don't know if it says more about Tennessee or more about Georgia. because Georgia's been Jekyll and Hyde all season. So the games you expect them to bounce back, they do it. But then games that you expect them to get up for, it seems like they don't have that juice.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, there's just, if you look at the talent, we expected Carson Beck to be in the Heisman talk at this point in the season. Trevor Etienne, he's been a shell of himself, but he's still talented. Carson, there's talent there. Those guys are Smith on the outside and those wide receiver, they're talented. The offensive line is good. The trenches across the board are good. KJ Bolden is playing great at safety as a true freshman. They have talent everywhere. And it's just one of those years where they're playing below the standard, but all it takes is just one thing to go right, and it just becomes a domino effect. That's why I can't really count this Georgia team out. Although I don't believe in Tennessee, if Georgia starts to get the ball rolling right now at the right time, that could be scary for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean it could, but like I said, they've been this team all season, right? They do what they do the first week against Clemson, and then turn right back around 2 weeks later and only put up 13 against Kentucky, right? To come back out and blow out Auburn just to lose to Alabama, right? But then you beat the number one team in the country, but then almost lose to Florida. It doesn't make sense what they're doing. They're finding ways to win. They're also finding a lot of ways to lose. So I don't know what Georgia you're going to get when come playoff time. You want them to flip the switch, but the season's almost over. What switch is there to flip?
I think you get the team that's going to beat the number one team in the country. I think
you hope so.
It's kind of one of those things where you're really good and you play against lesser competition. You take it for granted. But when you go up against another big dog, it's like, all right, let me flex my muscle. It's like the male ego kind of thing. When you get around, another top dog, you try to let them know this is my trap. That I feel like that's this Georgia team. They play down to lesser teams, and when a team like Texas or outside of Bama, another top dog lines up in front of you, I think they raise their level of play, and that's led by Kirby. And
again, I think that's the overvaluation of this team. If this was the team of the last 2 to 3 years, I would agree with you. This team don't have that. Talented, yes, but there was something more that those other teams had that this Georgia team doesn't have, and that's what I'm saying. I think that we overvaluate them for what they've been doing and how they've been dominating. But now, like the disparity right now with all the top 10 teams, everybody's really close together. It's almost like that season in the NCAA where there was no one dominant team. I feel like we've seen a couple of teams this year be dominant.
But which again, and then also you've seen those couple of teams not be dominant. There's been times where we've seen Miami just seem like they're just going to score 30 at the half every single game, and then they struggle and lose to a Georgia Tech. So we've seen teams, even Oregon this past weekend, they almost lost to Wisconsin. So
and again, hard place to play sometimes, but still, you're a couple dumb calls away or random plays away from losing these games. But that's been Ohio State, that's been Texas, that's been every team that's right now in the top 12.
Isn't that the perfect formula to introduce the playoff where there's no true dominant team and any team could lose on a Saturday?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great segue, huh?
It is.
I think that really goes to I love the chaos of it, but then you have a bunch of asshats sitting somewhere and ranking these people from 1 to 12 that don't know what they're doing. Clearly, their standards make no sense.
All right, so you mentioned the top 12. Could you read those top 12 off, and let's just break it down real quick.
All right, so in your top 12, of course, you got Oregon, followed by Ohio State, Texas at 3, Penn State at number 4, Indiana, Notre Dame at 6, Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, Georgia at 10, Tennessee at 11, and Boise State at 12, with SMU and BYU right behind them. That list makes no damn sense.
All right. So what's your I would assume that you don't think Indiana is an actual top 5 team.
Hold on.
Let's start there.
No, I'm gonna start. So again, Bree sent over this meme, right, with Patrick, and he's arguing with Man Ray, right?
Yeah.
And Man Ray's asking Patrick, he's showing him the score to the Notre Dame and NIU game. He's like, "Hey, did you watch this game?" And Patrick goes, "Yep, it doesn't count. It happened in September." So the guy goes, "But you ranked Georgia or Alabama over Georgia." He goes, "Yeah." He's like, "But you still have Notre Dame ranked 6." He's like, "Yeah, but they beat him in September." Like, it keeps going back to just dumb ways why, well, they lost to this team. It doesn't count. It happened in September. But this team also lost to Arkansas. Yeah, but that was a good loss. But it happened in September. It doesn't matter. This is the CFP right now.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it on and off air before. There's a lot of agendas being pushed behind closed doors. So, that kind of talk don't really surprise me. Being a Florida State fan, and not to harp on the past, but being robbed of certain moments of certain opportunities. So we know there's different agendas being pushed. So it's not gonna make sense. And your profile is perfectly right. Bring back the BCS at this point. Let the computers do the thinking, because humans have been terrible at deciding these things.
They can't get it right. Again, like just sitting here looking at the team. If the wins and losses mattered, or if you just keep winning, then it doesn't matter how you move. Again, you just saw Oregon stumble. So should they drop? They have this little chink in the armor now. Should they fall? Yeah. Texas is over is over Penn State. Penn State only lost to what? Ohio State so far?
Yeah.
Why would Texas jump them at all? I think Texas lost super early because they lost in September, so it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't get and I think Bama jumped 3 spots. Why does Bama jump over Miami?
For what?
For what? Unless you just, again, heaven forbid, Bama might lose again. So they're high enough to where you won't drop them far out of the playoffs.
You always want to keep those SEC teams on the cusp of getting back in there, because Bama lost to Vandy and Miami lost to Georgia Tech. But the way, if you take away those 2 losses and you look at how these teams have been playing in the wins, you would think Miami is the more dominant teams, because a lot.
Yeah, but again, Miami lost to Georgia Tech. Bad loss, right? Georgia Tech is not a good team. Alabama lost to Vandy. Fine, they're scrappy, but they're not a good team. But why are they above them? And Alabama has 2 losses. Explain that.
What was the other Bama loss?
Oh God, why am I blanking on their other loss? They lost to.
They beat Georgia. I know that.
They lost to Tennessee. Yeah, they lost to Tennessee, who Georgia just beat, but they're also in front of Georgia. It don't make any sense, bro. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, let's talk.
Why is SMU under 4 2-loss teams? I'm sorry, man.
Hey, we still have Boise in the running. So let's talk about the teams that have a small chance of staying in there, because we talk about teams that are still on the cusp, like a SMU, but you have Indiana, who plays Ohio State this weekend. If Indiana goes out there and gets dominated, let's say they lose by 21, how far do you think they fall? Right now they're at 5. Do they fall out of the top 10 or the top 12?
Well, by the standards here, I know Tennessee came into that Georgia game ranked ahead of Georgia, right? They go in there, they end up getting smacked. They drop 4 places. So by the CFB standards, if if Indiana gets dominated and lose, well, Ohio State is the higher ranked team. They shouldn't drop more than 4 spaces. So they shouldn't drop any lower than 9.
But style of play, the way you win and the way you lose matter in college football. So if Indiana just goes out there and loses
did Tennessee lose in style?
No, they was a terrible loss.
So they only dropped 4 spaces. So if they go in there and get smacked, well, losing in style only counts for 4 places. So again, they shouldn't drop out of the top 12 according to these standards.
And we know those standards don't matter in college football. Let's look outside the top 12. What are some of the teams that are on the cusp that you think has a chance to make it in with 2 more games left in the season? So we got, let me just read them off to you. We got SMU at 13, BYU 14, Texas A&M, Colorado, Clemson, South Carolina, Army, Army is undefeated, by the way, and Tulane to round out the top 20. Now, obviously, let's say Clemson or SMU goes on to win the ACC. That's an automatic bid. So they control their destiny. Outside of
right now it's Miami though, right?
Or Miami. So whoever wins the ACC controls their destiny. But SMU and Clemson are outside the top 12. So outside of those two, do you see any other teams outside the top 12 that has a shot?
I mean, I think any of those teams that are close, like in the 13-14 range. So you said that's SMU and BYU right now. BYU shouldn't be out of the top 12 anyway. But
I think losing to Kansas, it's already BYU. And can you name a statement victory on that schedule for BYU? You lose to a Kansas team that is under 500. Although we thought they would have been a more talented team coming into this season, it hasn't been the case. So that loss pretty much ends their chances of making the playoffs. So you could kind of almost eliminate BYU right now.
No, I mean, mathematically, the reason why I'm saying I'm not going to eliminate them if they're still within that range. Like their last couple games, they just play Arizona State and Houston. SMU only plays Virginia and Cal, so both teams can win out those last 2 games. So really, I'm looking at like Tennessee. What's Tennessee's last 2 games? Is Vandy going to pull an upset on Tennessee? You could possibly see it, right? You never know. So Ole Miss is right there. They still got to play Florida, who surprisingly is playing really hard and inspired football, right? They're not going to lose to Mississippi State, but I can see Ole Miss going into the swamp and slipping up. So right then and there, if you look at that, SMU and BYU are right back in there, right? If Tennessee falls. So they still have a shot. I'm looking at those last couple games for those teams. Those teams are right there on the cusp. If Tennessee slips up, there's no way you can keep them in there. You can't keep a 3-loss team. I don't care if they are in the SEC. You can't keep them over 2, 1-loss teams. So I think SMU and BYU both have a shot.
For me, it's I'm going with the Colorado Buffalo. We kicked it off at the top of the show with them, how they're playing right now, and you finished the season with 2 teams that aren't that good. You should be able to beat Oklahoma State. And what was the other team they play? Let me pull their schedule back
up. Kansas,
which we just talked about. They're under 500. You got Travis Hunter, Fedor Sander. This defense is playing good. You control your own destiny, and I think that the voters and the people that make these decisions want to see that product in the playoffs because it's going to bring money. So they'll find a way to get them in, and all they got to do is win out. So I'm going with Colorado on the outside, looking in to potentially make it.
Okay.
What about Army? They're undefeated right now. They're a clear path for Army.
Yeah, college football playoffs. They don't like America. They like money. So that ain't gonna work.
All right. Well, it's an exciting time of year. Our team, unfortunately, is on the opposite end of the spectrum. We're not, starting this season off, we had high hopes coming off of a 13-0 season. Um, you replace a lot of guys, sent 10 guys to the NFL. We were thinking 2 to 3 losses at worst. Here we are sitting at 1-9. And we're having a playoff conversation, and Florida State isn't in the conversation, and it's sad and heartbreaking as a fan base, but we're in a position right now where we can't talk playoffs. We have to talk what's next for this roster and coaching movements. Mike Norvell last week came out after the game and fired his OC, his wide receiver coach, and the defensive coordinator, with more to come towards the end of the season. Where do we go in terms of coaching right now for FSU? What is there to be done? Because obviously Mike can't fire himself a lot. I told let me dial it back for a second. I went out and said before Mike got hired, you need to hire Prime, and me and you have spirited debates about whether or not Prime should be a good fit for Florida State or not. I think he would be with the resources behind him, not necessarily calling X's and O's, but just not only the money he would bring to Florida State, but the recruits. Because at the end of the day, football is about the Jimmies and the Joes, the guys that you put on the field. And, I can't live in the past. We got Mike Norvell. He hasn't gotten it done. And this is year 5. You've had, a 10+ win seasons. That should be applauded. But at Florida State, 1-9 isn't acceptable. So we're in a position where we have to reload this staff, and he has to get it right. So let's start out with the offensive coordinator position, which is not your typical offensive coordinator position because Mike calls the plays, but you would assume he's going to go get a guy that's going to call the plays. If you were making that decision, who would you go after?
Oof. This is under the best case scenario that Mike isn't too proud and too stubborn to not give up play calling duties. Right. I think that he has to just admit that right now his offense doesn't work, and it really hasn't worked for 2 years. Right. If you don't have special playmakers, it's definitely not going to work. In my pipe dream, my crack fueled dream, I would love them to throw money at Brian Hartline. As the OC. You're the OC of this. Bring your talent with you. He clearly can recruit. He gets the playmakers that right now Florida State is desperately missing. Guys out wide, guys who can consistently catch, and can make a play once they have the ball in their hand. Brian Hartline brings those guys in. He's consistently getting guys. He got the best guy out of Florida just recently, right? So the recruiting part, I think, the recruiting part, I think, is super important because you can bring all the portal guys in, and you see what happens the first time you misevaluate. Because Mike was batting 1,000 with all his other transfers, but you bring in one batch that is not it. Who's behind him? Nobody, because you haven't developed anybody, you haven't recruited anybody. So give me a guy that can recruit, and give me a guy that knows how to call an offense, because he's been co-OC up there.
So the issue with that for me is how are we going to pay him? We already have to pay Alex Atkins, and we have to pay our defensive coordinator. So I like the idea because you're going to get the best wide receivers out, first of all, out of your backyard and abroad. And, he's going to recruit. That's what we need at Florida State is great recruiters. So he's going to do that. But I think he's just too expensive to get right now. And you mentioned that was your pipe dream. What's your realistic dream, or is that just it, Brian Hartline, or nothing?
No, I've been doing a little looking into who Herm had mentioned, the OC out at UNLV,
Brandon Marion.
Again, if it's somebody that can bring over an offense that works, but again, my biggest fear is, which is why I want to get somebody that has either played or coached in the recruited and coached in the SEC or Big Ten. Somebody that's been doing it at a big boy level. UNLV is cool. It's That's nice that you putting up points. You're putting up points against, the Hawaiis and whoever's of the world. That doesn't
Right.
mean much to me.
It gives
So
me Walt Bell vibes.
I don't want that kind of vibes in my life. Again, and the thing about it, he has to hit, right? Because now you're getting into Florida territory where you're just repeating, trying to find a coach that works, It's not going to work for us, man. And we're not in the kind of conference that we can afford to do that. Like, we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
So
And I guess the thing about this day and age in college football, it's not that hard to flip a roster nowadays. But like you said, you got to get a guy that's going to bring players in. I don't know. While I don't know if this guy that I have in mind will bring players in, but I think that Mike needs guys in that coaching room that's been there before. That's not gonna just agree with everything or a yes man. Because if you look at the staff, the previous staff, a lot of those guys came along with Mike, or Alex Atkins came from Charlotte. So what can he tell Mike Norvell? So you got to bring in some guys that could push back at Mike, that could stand their own in that room. And for me, go get Dan Mullen. He might not be the greatest recruiter, but one thing we know about that guy is he's going to call some great plays. He's going to put players in a position to make plays. Hell, he got Kyle Trask drafted. So he was in Heisman talks.
I'm about to say, when you Heisman candidate for a minute.
Yeah, man. So go get me a Dan Mullins who's been there before, or even a Tom Herman. I know you wasn't on that train, but last time Ohio State won a championship, he was calling plays. So, and he could recruit. He could recruit at that level. I think he recruited Braxton Miller, who was a 5-star quarterback. So go get me a guy, like that. The Brennan Marion thing, it sounds cool, but that's not what we need right now. He's not a proven guy. So that's what I would do at and if you want to bring in Brandon Marion, bring him in as a wide receiver coach. But to call plays, nah. What about your DC?
Do I have it? I actually haven't looked at DC's.
Give me Muschamp, man. Give me Muschamp. He's at Georgia as an analyst right now. We've seen him do it at Texas. Yeah. They won the national championship at Texas. His defense was really good at South Carolina.
Super good. LSU. He has that pedigree, right? Yeah. I think you, me, and Herm kind of talked on both of the old Florida coaches. I want a guy that's just like Will Muschamp. Honestly, I think that you need one of those just hard ass coaches that's going to yell at you all the time, even if
you're fear in you.
Good. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, we don't have that, right? Like, we remember, like, Mickey Andrews always looked angry, right? Like, he had defenses that were balling out. You get a sack, get a turnover, get a pick six. He still looked angry.
That's the typical defensive coordinator, though. Like, if you look at freaking Georgia, look at Kirby. Does he ever look happy?
When he is happy, he's mad.
Exactly.
He's mad that he's happy. But yeah, so basically you have those guys. Nick Saban was a defensive guy. Like, you need somebody like that. I know Will Muschamp. If it's a real name, then I think that's a great hire. But I think that you have to get somebody like that. Like, to me, the intensity of last year's defense matches a Will Muschamp type of coach.
Yeah.
Like, this defense had no intensity, no nothing. And honestly, Fuller never did. Fuller never had, intensity as a coach. At least I never saw it.
Hey, man, we got to bring JC back on because he backed Fuller from day one till the end. He went down with the ship. So we got to bring him back on just to kind of at least say a few words for his guy.
Yeah, I'm sure he's still going to stand on that hill.
Yeah, I mean, he gonna stand alone on that hill. Yeah. I don't want to make it like a huge Florida State segment, but lastly, I know there's other fires that's coming up. What other coaches that needs to be fired, or at least needs to be moved?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows Randy Shannon is going to be fired. He's only there because he's the only one with DC calling experience.
He's coaching for his life.
Man, he's got a ton of lives. So apparently, I saw this stat where he's coached for every major Florida program except for USF.
That just says you might want to wrap it up, my G. It ain't working for you.
Listen, he's been around. He's been passed around. All the boys done had him. But yeah, big pause. But yeah, no, Randy Shannon got to go. We've seen what's the linebacking core has been, especially this year. No development, communication has never been there. Their best guys that they had were transfers, right? Tatum was a transfer. Was Kalen a transfer? I believe.
No, Deloach, he actually was one.
He was a Norvell guy, right?
Yeah, he got developed.
But we haven't seen anything from the linebacker position in forever, so he's got to bounce. I think the DB coach, he's fine. He can stay. I like Papuchis with the special teams. Special teams is never been the issue, right? So, but I think Papuchis is also the tight ends coach.
Yeah, the defensive end coach.
Is he? I thought he was the tight ends coach.
No, that's Thompson.
Oh yeah, Chris Thompson. Yeah, he might be able to bounce too. You can get him up out of here as well.
Yeah, I mean, look at Kyle Murlock.
Yeah, Odell. I think Odell, you find a way to gently put him out to pasture. I think it's time for Odell. So yeah, man, you got to have sweeping changes in Tallahassee. It has to be done.
All right. Well, like I said, I didn't want to make it a Florida State segment. Lastly, lastly on college football, the Heisman. Let's talk about these Heisman hopefuls. Right now, the leader in the clubhouse that many presume that will win it all is Travis Hunter. He's doing amazing things. He's got 3 picks on the season, over 75 yards, 900 plus receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. And he rushed one in this past weekend. So he's doing things that we've never seen before. Ashton Genty, he's also doing crazy things in that backfield. And Dylan Gabriel has actually jumped Cam Ward. How do you feel about that top 3? Do you feel like Travis Hunter is in the driver's seat right now?
He should be. I mean, to me, when you judge these kind of awards, who's the best player in college football? Well, all right, I hand you the ball and then you go run, and then if we score a touchdown, you sit on the bench. Travis Hunter's still in the game. Right? So he's catching touchdowns, he's running for touchdowns, and he's getting interceptions. He's actually making he's making differences week to week on both sides of the ball. You know what I mean? There's no other person in college football that's doing that right now. So to me, what he's doing has never been seen. We've had a running back completely just dominate the game. We've seen Bo Jackson. We've seen when what's his name? Ron Dane did it. We've seen Ricky Williams. We've seen dominant running backs. You've never seen what Travis Hunter is doing, ever.
Right. And they're always trying to give a quarterback the Heisman. So
none of the quarterbacks are worth of a Heisman.
I mean, Breeze isn't here, and I at least have to make an argument for his guy because I feel like he would. Cam Ward is playing out of his mind right now.
Oh, great season. He also has. Yeah, I think the Duke loss took him out. I mean, the Georgia Tech loss took him out of the race.
Not because of his play though. That was I mean, he made some bad throws in that game, but if you look at his numbers, he has over 3,000 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he leads the country in QBR. So if you're going to lead the country in QBR, have over 30 plus touchdowns at this point in the season, you should at least be in everybody's top 2 talks.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm sorry. Yeah, he deserves to be there. I didn't. My bad if I made it seem like he didn't deserve to be in the race. But if I'm looking at his stat line from just their loss, yeah, he's the huge reason why they're 9-1. But if you look at his game against Georgia Tech, he might have been the reason why they have 1 loss.
So let me ask you this though: what about that this past weekend? Travis finally got beat on a touchdown. Receiver just blew by him. He didn't have a really good game wide receiver wise, although he had the interception and the rushing touchdown, which was that's a big although. But I'm just saying he still got beat. He made mistakes within that game. So is it not held to the same level as Cam making a bad throw across his body for an interception, but yet still having 300 plus yards and what did he have? 2 or 3 touchdowns? So, how do we rate this thing, or is it just simply because Travis, he's able to play both sides? What he's doing is so amazing that his mistakes are viewed less than that of a Cam Ward.
I think it's easy. I feel like we should do some kind of scientific study on this, like the rate of importance on a game, some kind of sliding scale factor or whatever. Either way, if you win the Heisman as a wide receiver, I think that's an accomplishment because you can't control getting the ball, right?
Right.
Somebody still has to get you a good pass. You still have to make a play, beat a man, whatever. But somebody has to get you the ball first. Running back, a little bit easier. You're right there. You're handing it off. The quarterback, the ball's in his hands on every single snap. They determine and dictate everything, right? So the standard that they're held to is a little bit higher because they are so important. Travis Hunter is still in that same position where, yeah, how much can you affect a defense or a game on defense? Are you getting all the sacks? Are you getting all the tackles? And it seems like every other game he's got a pick.
No, he's had 3 picks.
That's altering the game, but he's altering the game on defense and then turning right around and doing it on offense in a position where he has to find the ball to do all this stuff. Like the ball don't come to him. He has to go find the ball. He has less control of his stats than anybody else.
I see what you're saying. I and don't get me wrong. I think that Travis should win it because, it's just the whole thing of we've never seen. Like, if you're doing something that no one has never seen and you're doing it at a high level, we've had guys play two-way, both sides of the ball before. They just never made an impact to this level. He's already had several Heisman moments. I forgot what was it what was it, a Nebraska game where the game came down to the ball on the one and he tackled somebody and forced the fumble to win the game. So he's making those Heisman type moments. I don't think Cam Ward has had a Heisman type game yet. None doesn't stick out right now, but
what was that comeback game that they were down or something? It seemed like he threw for like 5 touchdowns in that game. It was like a close game.
It was either Cal or Virginia. I know they came back on both Cal and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I feel like some of those, like he's, one series where he threw a pick, walked off as if it was just a 3 and out, and then came right back and led like a 70-yard drive for a touchdown. Like it didn't even matter. Like to me, he's had plenty of. He's that
2
guy.
minutes.
Yeah, he's had plenty of those moments where he's definitely looking like, yeah, I'm that guy.
Nevertheless, though, it's a good race this year. But I don't want, I want to shed more light on Cam Ward because it seems like a lot of the media groups have kind of pushed him out the door, so to speak.
I dig it.
Anything else pressing on your heart when it comes to college football? We talked about our nose.
I just want the season to be over.
The Gator fans are happy again on my timeline. I don't like it.
Yeah, you know what? I mentioned this to Breeze, and I feel like we can, maybe chop it up when we're all back together. But I'm worried about the way that the Gators have been playing this season. And we've all said that no matter what Florida teams, Miami, Florida State, Florida, we get talent.
Right.
We know where we are. We're in a bad place. Miami's about to lose a lot of guys themselves, especially, Cam Ward is leaving. We don't know what we have at quarterback. I don't think they know what they're going to have at quarterback. And we see what a good quarterback did for them, right? From last season to this season.
Mm-hmm.
Florida still has DJ Lagway, who has proven that he might be pretty decent. Is potentially Florida, and again, you and me don't have to talk about it. We can wait till Breeze gets here. But is Florida actually potentially in the best seat in Florida, in the state of Florida?
I'm not ready to they had a great weekend. It seemed like this past 3 days they've been flipping every last freaking recruit we got. Tomorrow someone's on flip watch. So they've had a great weekend. DJ Lagway, he's an elite player. But at the same time, we've always known that Sunbelt Billy could recruit. He just can't coach. And I'm going to stick to that until I see otherwise. He's in year 5, and he's under 500 still. Now
Yeah.
you got a guy, a real guy at quarterback, not Anthony Richardson. Grant Mertz, he wasn't that bad, but you got a difference maker. It's kind of similar to Deshaun Watson, where Clemson could never get over that hump until Deshaun Watson came around, and they just took off and started winning championships. It could be that, but I'm not ready to do that because I don't believe in Billy Napier just yet.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just a thought. It's a thought I want to throw out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a topic to talk about, especially during the off season. But I don't like how my timeline looking right now at all. Well, I don't have a smooth transition over in the NFL. My Bucks were off this week. It's a good week of football, though. Good week of NFL football. Quick question before we get into this: do you watch? Do you have Red Zone?
I got Sunday Ticket.
It seems like I can't watch football the same now that Red Zone is run. I haven't watched like a game straight through since I've got Red Zone.
Because you're spoiled just watching like the big moments.
Yeah, I'll watch my Bucks all the way through, but outside of that, I'm on Red Zone, and then I watch Sunday Night Football in Monday.
Okay, I'm about to say, so like the standalone games, you'll watch those, right? Like the Sunday night game, Monday night game, Thursday, whatever.
Yeah, but Red Zone, it's kind of changed. Just in gambling, period, just changed how we watch sports.
Yes, we all know about Parlay Ump.
I got one in right now. But.
Of course you do. You know what? I wonder maybe if it's the the games that you're just tied to, right? So after the local game is on, you may not have really much interest if they put on Denver and Las Vegas.
Right.
But I mean, there's some other games that are out there that are actually, good or worth watching.
Yeah.
But if you don't have access to them, then yeah, you're just watching Red Zone.
And
nothing wrong with
those. Yeah, I'm hooked at this point. But you mentioned one of those good games, the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City was 9-0 up until this past weekend, but they went down against the Bills 21-30. The Josh Allen led Bills. If Breeze was here, he probably would be rolling his eye, sucking his teeth, or doing something because he's not a fan of Josh Allen and never will be.
Wait, aren't you on that bandwagon too?
I'm not as heavy on the bandwagon, but I don't think he's who they're trying to make him out to be. Breeze hates his guts because he's also a Lamar guy. So I don't hate his guts. I don't think he is. He might be top 5, but I don't think
top 5.
I could squeeze out 4 other guys outside of Pat Mahomes, but that's another pod. Sure. But they took down the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Are the Bills the best team in the AFC right now?
Are they the best?
Currently 9-2, and they beat the undefeated Chiefs.
Yeah, they beat the undefeated Chiefs. I mean, they could be. You can make an argument for the Bills being the best team, and I think that means nothing when the playoffs come and you have to go to Arrowhead and play the Chiefs because it hasn't made it.
What we've always talked about though with this Bills team is Josh Allen shouldn't be able to be the guy that's doing it all, especially come playoff time. And we always mention they got Stephon Diggs. They got a good wide receiver core. It seems like the roles have flipped now. They got a good running game with Dalvin's brother, James Cook. But who is out wide for them? Keon Coleman, he's hurt.
Yeah, I know Keon's hurt. What's the one guy, number 10? Shakir.
He's hurt.
Is he? Did he get hurt in that game? So I know he was in that game.
He got hurt in that game, but even if he's healthy, if you're depending on Shakir to be your guy,
no, to me, he always seems to be like that Ja'Kai Douglas kind of safety blanket. Like he just makes a big play when it's time to make a big play.
I don't like that comparison, but
it's a good comparison. Shout out to Herm. But I think that if if you're going to get that kind of that kind of game out of the Bills and Josh Allen when it matters, again against the Chiefs, I think that there's enough around Buffalo to make a strong run. I think they've always had enough. Sometimes it just comes down to Josh Allen doing too much.
Yeah.
Now, if that's out of a sense that he needs to, maybe he just needs to trust his team more. Hopefully he's getting that, because if he does, then yeah, the Bills can take down the Chiefs in the playoffs, but I still got to wait to see until it happens.
You still got to see it. Yeah, for me, I don't know if the Chiefs are the best team or the Bills are the best team in the league right now, because Josh Allen, like you said, he starts pressing when it's winning time, especially if he's got to come from behind. That's when those throw across my body picks come, or I'm going to try to run around and fumble, or like you said, just press too much. And when you're pressing and you don't have guys on the outside that can make plays for you, it could be a problem.
I think that's the Josh you might be getting. He's only thrown 5 picks this season, so
yeah. I mean, but you look at this AFC outside of Buffalo. You got the Steelers, who we're going to talk about here in a second. You got the Ravens, and the Dolphins aren't playing good, but the Steelers, the Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, those are the 4. It's a tough conference, and if you look at how Kansas City is built this season, with Travis Kelce not playing up to his usual standard, and there's question marks in that backfield, I think that title in that AFC is up for grabs.
It's going to be fun. I mean, to me, going into this game, I still bet the Chiefs, right? Because to me, it's them until you can beat them. Well, that, or until you prove that you can beat them, which Buffalo just did. You know what I'm saying? And that's great. It's great in the regular season. You still have to show me you can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, and nobody's been able to do it.
We will see. Let's move along. I mentioned the Steelers. They took down the Ravens at home. Can the Steelers continue this success behind Russ? This is your guy. You went to bat for Russell Wilson. He's kind of back to.
I go to bat for Russell Wilson. I don't think I went to bat for him, but that's fine.
You debated me for several weeks about he still got it. He's still an elite level thrower of the football. I mean he's starting to.
He's having a good
make
season.
You sound like a genius. Well, but
I mean, listen, nobody saw this coming. I don't think that anybody saw this coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it goes back to that conversation that we were having a little while ago, even about Mike Tomlin. He just knows how to coach, man. He knows how to get the best out of whatever is put in front of him. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm on the fence of how far Pittsburgh can really go. It was interesting to watch them, shut down, Baltimore the way they did, but can they, if they're gonna have to do that against, potentially the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills, right? Just back to back, just pick your order on who you want to play. I don't know if they can do that.
So I think as long as Russ doesn't turn over the football, this defense is really good. Led by TJ Watt. It's kind of back to Blitzburg of old. And Najee Harris, he's starting to figure out how to run the ball in the NFL as a big back and run behind his pads. And they're just playing. They change the level of play when you play them, especially at home. They turn it into a fight. I watched that game on Red Zone, of course. And they showed most of that game on Red Zone, but it seemed like there was almost a fight every other play. And that's the style of ball that Pittsburgh wants to play. They want to get into a fist fight, a bare knuckle fight with you. And George Pickens is starting to play like the George Pickens we know he could play like. And Russ is giving him chances on deep balls and getting them the ball a lot more. So they're 8-2 right now. You play the Browns the next twice out of the next 3 weeks. That you might want to check those two W's. So you're probably sitting at 10-2.
Yeah.
Going into playing the Ravens again. So I like the way where they sit at, and as long as Russ doesn't. There was a play in that game where Russ he just floated it up for an interception inside the red zone, going up. They were going to go up 2 scores. So if Russ doesn't make those boneheaded plays and just learn how to manage the game and just let the defense lead you to victory, I think they could make some noise.
Okay.
But we'll see. What about that? How Lamar played in that game? How do you take anything away from Lamar, or is it one of those games where you got to have a bad game? Because it doesn't seem like Lamar had any bad games so far in the season outside of that one.
Without sounding like I'm dumping on Lamar, which some people,
which means you're going to dump on Lamar. But
go ahead. No, I'm God, you jerk. No, I'm not going to dump on Lamar. I think everybody
you didn't want the man to get paid, but
that's not what what. So again, I thought it was going to be the other co-host on this show that won't seem to give me a break, but apparently you're one of those people too. It's fine. I want the man to get paid.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I don't think that you know what the standard of play is for Lamar. I think that Tomlin knows how to call a certain defense. They play this team all the time, right? They play him twice every year. So I think that he knows the tendencies of what the Ravens do. There's not a handful of teams out there that can stop Lamar Jackson, clearly, because he's about to win another MVP. So I don't think that says anything about Lamar or anything going forward. I think that's just what the Steelers know how to do to Lamar Jackson. Everybody else isn't able to do that. They can try to take the Steelers' formula, but they won't be able to copy it.
Yeah.
So, Lamar will bounce back next game.
And you also can't bank on Justin Tucker missing 3 field goals? 2 to 3 field goals?
Yeah, it's not him. So, nah. I don't take anything from it. This is one of those weeks.
All right. Well, he's on his way to another MVP, like you said. So hopefully he bounces back, which I'm sure he will. One team that hasn't bounced back all season has been Herm's Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if he's watching, but what is going on in Big D? Pause.
I mean, the minute Dak is down, that team can't function. Like you can't lose the most important player on the team. They don't. There was a couple plays in this last game where CeeDee Lamb and who's the quarterback, the backup for them. Some redhead white guy. I don't remember, but either way, he's trash.
Cooper Rush.
There you go.
Let's not do the redhead white guy. It's Cooper Rush.
Yeah, he's trash. He's great value. Andy Dalton.
His mama named him Cooper. I'm gonna call him Cooper.
Go for it. But yeah, they just seem out of sync, and then there's just that team's a mess, man, from the top down. Like Jerry Jones wants that to be a soap opera. I think he enjoys it. Like at this point, I don't think that Jerry really wants to win. I think it's everything else around the Dallas Cowboys that gets more pub and more shine than actually winning.
Did you did you see the video of it was like a picture of CeeDee Lamb and what's the corner? Number 7 was in the club after the game.
No, I didn't see that.
Like literally, I don't know how true it is, but it's going around on Twitter. They were in the club after the game. So the team ain't even serious.
It's a wash, man. They know they ain't going nowhere.
But it's like you said, like Jerry Jones, he wants to be the center of attention. And I don't think nothing's going to change in Dallas until he's not making any more decisions. Like if Jerry Jones is involved in the decision-making process, in Dallas, it will continue to look like this. He went out and said that he's not firing McCarthy as the head coach. That's problem number 1 because he's been terrible since he's been there. There's nothing he's done since
He's never
8.
He's never been a good coach. He's never been a good coach.
Didn't he win a Super Bowl with Green Bay?
He had Aaron Rodgers
in his prime.
Yeah, and what have you done since? Nothing really. Besides that, you did nothing in Green Bay. You had Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't need you. So yeah.
Yeah, so the fact that you're already going out saying you're not firing him, you're not trying to fix the problem, and it's just going to be a continuation of disappointment in Dallas.
Yep.
All right. Well, before we get into your game of the week, Pump, did you did you want to touch on any other games that you may have thought was interesting or you enjoyed over the weekend?
Nothing interesting. Jacksonville is just trash. It's
sell the team at this point.
I want to throw that out there. They're garbage. The Bengals are just frustrating.
It's like that amount of talent in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. It's so depressing to just watch it go to waste. Jamar Chase, he could potentially win the triple crown as a wide receiver this year, which is number one in catches, yardage, and touchdowns. He's number one right now currently, and he's playing out of his mind. And the defense can't stop the St. Pete Little Devils.
It honestly just goes to show, like, again, that's a team that I think I was saying this to Breeze about them and the Jets. I'll throw the Jets in this category too, where it's like their record is bad, but they're not losing the way a Jacksonville is losing, right? They're not getting thrashed and blown out. Like, they're losing random, like, 1-point games, 2-point games, 3-point games. Like, they're right there, right? Which again says a lot about that team. To your point, you can't finish it on both ends, but every week they're right there, and they just can't
quite get right.
Can't quite get right.
And so in those teams you had high expectations for. You had high expectations for a healthy Jets team with a good defense. Breece Hall coming back healthy, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson in the game to at least push for a playoff run. Joe Burrow, you know what they can be when they're healthy. And those are more disappointing than Jacksonville. Jacksonville is Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
I do want to mention, shout out to cousin Matt, because he told me to bring it up. His Broncos are playing really good football right now. They beat the Atlanta Falcons 38-6 under a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. Bo is playing some really good ball right now. They're 6-5. He said they could get to 9 wins on the season. They've by beating the Atlanta Falcons, they've beaten every single team in the NFC South right now. Atlanta leads the South, and they thrashed them 38-6. The Broncos under Bo Nix, and Broncos have, I think, the best defense in the league. So what's good for a rookie quarterback is a good defense in a running game. So
yeah,
I mean, the way they're playing right now.
Their schedule is very favorable. I mean, at least for the next 3 weeks, right? They got the Raiders, the Browns, and the Colts. They got potential. However, they end with the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. So, we'll see how that goes.
They can get 9 wins out of that.
Possibly. All
right, Pump. Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, man.
Your Chicago Bears played division rivals, the Green Bay Packers. Was this at home?
Yeah, that's Soldier Field.
At Soldier Field. You lost by a point.
Yeah.
And you sent us the meme in the group text of you trying to jump off the roof. How do you feel? So let me preface this by saying you went out before the season and said, this is the year. This is the year that things turn around. I forgot what number I want to say you put 9 wins on this season.
No, I think I might have gone 11-6.
11. That's crazy.
I think I went 11-6. Yeah, man.
So I'm giving you the floor to kind of dial it back, full back pedal mode, cover the deep thirds. How do you feel about this Chicago team now? I think Caleb is still a bust. I've been on record saying that, and I'm going to continue saying that.
It's not Caleb. I'm telling you, it's not Caleb. So just to preface, the Bears, the Bears entered this week with a brand new offensive coordinator. They fired their OC, Shane Waldron, after 9 weeks.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for your service. You're out of here. He's been on the hot seat when they found out at the Jacksonville game in London that apparently he doesn't do a scripted 15 or 25 ever. So
my dog winging it.
They just go into the game, and like I guess some of the veteran players like kind of, you know, off the record mention it to like the Chicago media, like, yeah, we've never had a team where we don't script the first 15 plays. Like, I don't know what this is. And it's like all of a sudden forced him to do it. Yeah. Anyway.
I think that's an upper management problem though, because you should have known these things in the interviewing process and doing your research.
So I say all that to, you know, again, I knew you were going to mention the Caleb Williams being a bust thing. This is the Bears' third offensive coordinator, I think, in 2 calendar years. So again, it's the Bears. The Bears just aren't good at putting a good OC with a coach. I mean, with a quarterback. They ruin quarterbacks this way. So, you know, they got a new OC who you see the way that they're playing. Like Caleb Williams is actually scrambling. They utilized Roschon Johnson, the big back. They utilized DeAndre Swift out of the backfield more. They made that game a possession after possession game. And you saw the difference in the offense. The issue is, for me, the coach. And I'm gonna go too deep in this game. They lost it on a block field goal. Very Bears way to lose this game.
No, this is your segment. You normally have your victory wine, so take as much time as you need.
If you watch the game, right, the Bears are driving on that, and they get a 4th and 3, right? I think Caleb, you know, gets them within 4th and 3. They had 3rd and 19, hits a pass to DJ Moore, whatever, and like he was yelling at the sideline, like, "Yo, no, we're not coming to the field. We're going for it." Coach says, "All right, go for it, whatever." They get the 4th down. They convert, hit it to Keenan Allen for another 13 yards. Now they're like at the 30. They had 35 seconds left on the clock, 1 timeout. They didn't run any more plays. 30 seconds left, 1 timeout. You've been constantly moving the ball. Like, you got the Packers on their heels now. They ran the clock down and then decided to kick the field goal, left the timeout and everything in their pocket. And the Packers blocked the field goal. So at the press conference, they asked him, like, well, why didn't you try to get more yardage? Like, you guys had momentum. You were moving the ball. He said, well, you know, in that situation, we didn't want to risk a fumble.
Well,
no.
I'm trying to cape for him. I don't have anything.
That is the scariest head coach in football. You just went for it on 4th down because you had to, but you still had a timeout and plenty of time left. There was like still maybe 2 minutes to go before that. You still had time. You had plenty of time.
And in the game of football, there's always risk. Exactly.
Right?
There's always risk.
But you don't even try after you just gave your rookie quarterback the chance to say, all right, no, we're going for it. But then with a chance to get a better shot to win the game, you might have handed the ball off and the dude scores a touchdown. He said, we didn't run another play because we might fumble.
So how many fumbles were there up until that point in that game?
None.
but with the game on the line, 30 seconds in a timeout in your back pocket, that's when it popped into your brain. You know what? Let me shut it down because I don't want to fumble. You have to you got veteran wide receivers out there. You could run some deep outs, safe throws, get close, at least closer, you know, take a shot at the end zone. But
if I'm in that locker room, what does that say to me, coach? Like,
I don't believe in you.
I don't believe in you. That's the Bears. And this guy is still their head coach.
So you called it before the season. You said 10 to 11 wins. Where are you at now with it?
Oh, 10 to 11 wins.
Stop it.
So, we're about to run the gauntlet. We got Minnesota, we got Detroit, we got San Fran, we got Minnesota, we got Detroit.
Do you see what Detroit is doing to people?
Yeah.
Detroit is putting people to sleep at half. Tucking them
Detroit's the best team in the conference. I get that.
In the league.
Realistically, I think that we can squeeze 4 more wins out of this season. Go 8 and 9.
All right. Well, there you have it. Bear down. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it one bit. Caleb is a bust, and
He's
I'll
not a
continue to
bust.
say it.
He's so
You'll
not
come
a
around. You'll come around.
No, I won't. We should put a wager on this at some point.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
We'll talk about it off air.
All right.
I really don't have anything else. My Buck State, we needed the much needed bye week to get healthy. Hopefully, I heard Mike Evans, he's back up catching passes. I don't think he'll play this coming week. Chris
You guys about to
Godwin,
go against DeVito, right? Isn't he the new starter for the Giants?
I need DeVito. That's my best Italian. Hey, he's got the best agent in football. Somebody might die if they don't get the deal done.
Bro, listen, that man is yes.
It's messed up how they did Daniel Jones though. He's the 4th-string quarterback now. I understand. No, I understand demoting him, but why not just make him the second string? They pushed him all the way down to the bottom of the depth chart.
Man, they're giving that man money to sit on the bench. Okay, he better be happy.
Shout out to Danny Dimes.
Nothing.
Hey, shout out to Danny Dimes. Literally, he's getting paid.
Listen, walking to the back. Hey,
getting paid.
Getting paid.
All right, man. I got nothing else, man. The 49ers, they're mid. Surprisingly, we mentioned the Detroit Lions.
Yeah,
that offense is scary.
That team period is scary.
Yeah, man. They're a freight train right now. Good thing we got them early and we beat them. But outside of those two surprises for me, I don't see anything else I want to touch on in the NFL. How's your fantasy team? I know I beat you real bad this week. I think you're like 2-9 or something in my league.
Yeah, I'm Florida State.
You gotta fire some people, man. You might have to fire yourself.
Yeah, I'm about to let go of play calling. We'll see how that goes. I'm also, before we get out of here, I'm also nervous about this game on Saturday. I'm not sure.
Southern?
Yeah,
we're a 28-point favorite.
Okay.
which means we're gonna win by 10.
I hope so. I hope so.
It's the battle of the best 1-9 teams in college football. What better
running up.
Let's do it.
Let's get it. Let's get a little Chick-fil-A gift card for the winner. Hey, that might be too high class. Sonic, maybe like a Sonic gift card.
What else they got in tally, man? You was up there. You got to give them something less than that. Sonic is pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, you can get like what Guthrie's, like a free gut box to whoever wins. This could be the gut box bowl. That's
the gut bowl. The gut box bowl. Yeah.
Box bowl. That's what this is coming up. Yeah, battle of the gut for the gut box.
Man,
I don't know, man. It's a coin toss.
All right, man. Shout out to the Knowles, man. As always, we die hard Knowles. Shout out to Breeze. Hopefully, he come back on. Talk his talk about his Canes. I know he's having a great season, and I wouldn't want anything else for him because he's been through a lot as a Canes fan. So it's his time to shine. So I got to shout my guy out, man.
I'll pass.
All right. I mean, y'all cousins. Y'all be fine. All right. What was that?
He's a jerk. He's a hurricane. So
he's definitely a jerk, but you gotta love him.
Oh, absolutely.
And the pod ain't the same without him.
And that's also a true statement. All right, get us out of here.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's been the one and only, the world's greatest sports podcast, the Somebody Said podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, and tune in again next week for more content. From me and Pump, we'll see you later.
See you later. That's like the worst Italian ever.